Good afternoon, everybody. It's Saturday and it's May the 9th, and it's good to see you or to be able to just say a few words to you today. I've had a couple of people send messages that they appreciate these daily talks, and thank you for doing that. I don't know how many weeks it's been, but I feel like I've done a lot of talking. And so it's nice to hear that it's an encouragement. I wish we were able to come and spend time with you in your home, or at least meet on a Sunday in class, but we can't. You're stuck in your homes and I'm stuck in mine, and it's okay. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So something to lift your spirits a little. A little leaguer was playing outfield in the first game of the season. After he chased a long hit and hustled the ball back into the infield, somebody asked him how his team was doing and what the score was. The boy said his team was doing okay, but they were trailing 17-0. The person asked if he was discouraged about being so far behind and if he was ready to admit defeat. He came back immediately and said, "Defeat? We're not beaten. We haven't even been up to bat yet." So I thought that was great. That little kid has got a positive outlook. Yeah, down 17-0 in the first inning, but still, he knew that there was always hope, right? Well, yesterday I made a mistake. And I want to apologize for the mistake, because I was just sitting here and extemporizing as I do, and I said, well, May the 8th isn't anything. It's not like May the 5th or May the 1st or whatever, but I did have it pointed out to me that yesterday was VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. You know, I should have remembered that, because back in the UK, that's a big deal. I was born immediately after the First World, not the First World War. I was born immediately after the Second World War. And, by the time I was aware of what's going on, probably what I would be 3, 4, 5. And, the war wasn't that far behind. Britain was still had ration books and things were still in short supply. And we lived in London, and even 5 years later, not much rebuilding had been done. And as you walked around London, as you looked at London, there were all over the place. There were bomb sites. There were places where there'd been a building and a bomb had landed, destroyed the building, and they just leveled it and left it. And it was many years. I mean, in fact, I'm sure that in London there are still bomb sites from the Second World War. But I remember my dad telling me about all those days and how the people of London lived in fear. Back in those days, they not only had the Luftwaffe coming to bomb London, but they also had those, the British used to call them doodle bugs, but I think they were the V1 bomb, the buzz bomb, and they would make kind of I don't want to say a buzzing sound, but I guess it was a periodic bang, and as long as you heard that thing coming, going bang, 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 you knew that it was okay because it was still flying. But at some point it would stop making that noise, and then everybody would run for cover because they knew that bomb was going to land. And then my dad also told me about the time that he was walking down the street, and in front of him he watched as a whole building exploded, and then he heard the bomb coming. It had been a V2 rocket bomb, and it traveled faster than sound, and it arrived before anybody heard it coming. So I think back to those days, and I know we've had major conflicts America's been involved in Vietnam and all of the things that have happened since the war on terror. But our nation, for the most part, has lived in peace and tranquility. And I think, at least domestically, and I think that's what makes this present time even tougher, because for many of this generation are unaware of what it's like to do without. Many are unaware of what it's like to face hardship. So I told you yesterday that I'm reading a number of different books. And yesterday I read from that great classic, Ever Increasing Faith by Smith Wigglesworth. But today I want to read you a couple of pages out of a book, another book that I'm reading by K.P. Yohannan. This is the book, maybe some of you may have seen it. It's called A Revolution in World Missions. As I was reading it, you all know our dear friend that is in India and the trials he's going through. And as I read it, I just realized that we here in America, the Christian church in America, we're going through some tough times now, not being able to meet, but we have no idea what the rest of the world faces. We have no idea, even those of us who think that we're needy, we have no idea how blessed we are. So I want to read you a couple of pages of that, okay? The silence in the great hall in Kochi was broken only by the soft, choking sobs. The Spirit of God was moving over the room with awesome power, convicting of sin and calling men and women into His service. Before the meeting ended, 120 of the 1,200 pastors and Christian leaders present made their way to the altar, responding to the Great Commission. They made the choice to leave home, village, family, business, or career and go where they would be hated and feared. Meanwhile, another 600 pastors pledged to return to their congregation and pray for more workers who would go to the needy regions. I stood silently in the holy hush, for the earnest pastors crowded around the altar. I was humbled by the presence of God. As I prayed, my heart ached for these men. How many would be beaten and go hungry or be cold and lonely in the years ahead? How many would sit in jails for their faith? I prayed for the blessing and protection of God on them and for more sponsors across the sea to stand with them. They were leaving material comforts, family, friends, and personal ambitions, and ahead lay a new life among strangers. But I also knew that they would witness spiritual victory as many turned to Christ, and they helped to form new fellowships in the unreached villages. I don't know about you, but as I read those words, I just realized how incredibly blessed we are. We take our comfort just for granted. And yet our friend who is there in an Indian jail today, and I'm praying again for him today. And I know that even as the writer of this book talked about, there are many, many, many others, thousands of others who have given their life. I've heard it said, and I understand it, but I've heard it said that, well, why should we go to the nations of the world when there are so many needy here in America, so many needy in the UK? But really, we have no comprehension of how the rest of the world lives. There are millions and millions and millions of people who have never yet one time heard the name of Jesus. And yet in our society, the name is so familiar, it's used as a curse word. I read this part of it. It made me feel guilty. As I read the luxuries that a typical American family would have to surrender if they lived among the 1 billion people in the poverty areas of the world. Now, why am I saying you this? I'm trying to make you feel down? No, I'm trying, every day I come to you with a word of encouragement and a word to lift your spirits. But today I'm coming to you with a challenge. I want you to pray. I want you to give. I want you to realize how blessed we are and what a responsibility that blessing has. So let me read to you about what we would have to give up if we were to be like the rest of the world. We begin by invading the house of our imaginary American family, and we strip it of all of its furniture. Everything must go. Beds, chairs, tables, television sets, lamps. We'll leave the family with a few old blankets, a kitchen table, and a wooden chair. Along with the bureaus go the clothes. Every member of the family may keep in his wardrobe his oldest suit or dress, a shirt and a blouse. We'll permit a pair of shoes for the head of the family, but none for the wife or children. Now we move to the kitchen. The appliances have already been taken out, so we turn to the cupboards. The box of matches may stay, a small bag of flour, some sugar and salt. A few moldy potatoes already in the garbage can must be rescued, for they'll provide much of tonight's dinner. We'll leave a handful of onions and a dish of dried beans, and all the rest we take away. The meat, the fresh vegetables, the canned goods, the crackers, the candy. Now we've stripped the house, the bathroom has to be dismantled, the running water shut off, the electric wires taken out. Now we take away the house. The family can move into the tool shed. Communication must go. No more newspapers, magazines, books. Not that they're missed, since we must take our family's literacy too. Instead, in our shanty town, we'll allow one radio. Now, government services must go. No more postmen, no more firemen. There's a school, but it's 3 miles away and consists of 2 classrooms. There are, of course, no hospitals or doctors nearby. The nearest clinic is 10 miles away and is tended by a midwife. It can be reached by bicycle, provided the family has a bicycle, which is unlikely. And finally, money. We'll allow our family a cash hoard of $5. This will present our breadwinner from experience the tragedy of an Iranian peasant who went blind because he couldn't raise the $3.94 that he mistakenly thought he needed to read admission into a hospital where he could have been cured. Wow. I put that book down, and it sort of restores a sense of what's normal and what's right. If we're not careful, we get into a mode of complaining, and we get into a mode of concentrating on what we don't have. But brother, sister, we are blessed. And today, I want you to give God thanks. I want you to thank Him for His grace, for His mercy. I want you today just to pray, particularly for those who are in jail because of their faith. I pray for all of those who are out away from their family, living in little villages, trying to sleep in the ditches between villages, whatever. There are people today who are our brethren in Christ, who are giving everything they have. So that's a challenge, right? If we can hear all that, if we can read that and remain untouched, then I'm sad. So today, just a little word of challenge, a word that encourages you to pray and to thank God for His blessings, but also let's not be complacent. Let's strive to do more. Let's strive to win more. Let's strive to give more. Let's strive to spend more time with Him and with His Word. And I'm praying that through this, the Lord will become ever more precious to each of us. Sure love you all. Now, tomorrow is Sunday, and be sure you watch tomorrow's service. We're going to close tomorrow with a video that I know many of you have already seen, but I'm going to show it again. It's just a wonderful video of a group of churches in the UK who got together to just, even on the internet, to give God praise, and I'm sure it's going to be encouraging to you. I hope also something I say tomorrow might be encouraging, but we look forward to being with you tomorrow. So we'll see you at 9 o'clock in the morning, or if you can't join us at 9 o'clock, it'll be repeated after a little while. There's always a gap after the end of the service. Then it takes, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes before you can watch it again from the beginning. But you can watch any time. So sure love you all, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow in our weekly time together. And then be sure to watch us next week. I try to do it once a day, just to say hi. Not always at the same time, but hopefully it will be an encouragement to you and to reminder that even though we're not together, we are family, right? Sure love you all. See you then in the morning. Bye-bye. God bless.